Good morning, everybody. Former State Assembly Representative and current candidate for Wisconsin's 25th Senate District, Erik Severson is our very special guest today, Tuesday, October 28th, 2025. For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden, and you're watching DrydenWire Live, presented by Northwoods Policy Network. Folks, there's something new coming to the Northwoods this fall. It's called the Northwoods Policy Network. NPN is the premier Northwoods first policy and advocacy organization. They exist not only to educate and offer real solutions for a stronger future, but to make sure those solutions are heard by decision makers. To watch their full launch video and stay connected, visit northwoodspolicy.org. With that, we welcome our guest today, former State Assembly Representative and current candidate for Wisconsin's 25th Senate District, Erik Severson. Doc, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here today.
Hi. So much is going on. Oh, my goodness. Sorry, we've had a busy morning. And our conversation before we went live, it's got me now upset. That's a whole other thing. But first, before we get into this, there's some sad news. Gae Magnafici, former Representative Gae Magnafici, she lost her husband last week, Tom. Good friend of ours, Gae is. Actually, I met her, I met Tom a couple summers ago for the first time out at Adam Jarchow's house when Jerush and I went out there for a fire, and so I think Adam flew in lobsters or something, because Adam, everything's got to be the best. And actually, yeah, that's where I met you and your lovely wife, and Gae was there, and her husband Tom. And Tom, the two takeaways I have from him was, one, he was a very impressive man and a good storyteller. You could just sit by the fire and listen to him all night. And if I remember, I did sit by the fire and listen to his stories all night. He was great. But the second thing was, and maybe the most important, was just how madly in love he was with Gae. Those two are just perfect together. It was wonderful. I know you know Tom. I know you and Gae very, very well. What impacts did Tom have on your life?
Well, Tom is actually the reason that I got involved in politics. He was a member of the Polk County Republican Party, and Gae was actually on the executive committee. And after they met me, they recruited me to run for the 28th Assembly District back in 2009, and then the race was actually in 2010. So it was a huge role in for me, and what happened and why I was ever in the assembly at all was because of Tom. And you talk about Tom being so in love with Gae too. Literally, the last time I talked with Tom, and I was leaving his house, that's what he was telling me about, was how he first met Gae, and when he was really pursuing her, and what he did to finally get her to say yes to go out with him.
Well, I don't know what that story is, but I
yes.
feel like we probably shouldn't talk about the story. I don't know where that's going.
It's not bad at all. But
Yeah. Well, anyway, Gae,
bad
just
at
want
all.
you're in our prayers and our thoughts and our condolences, obviously, for your loss. No great way to kind of segue into our conversation. So I think actually we'll take our 15-second commercial break, and we'll be right back with Erik Severson, who has announced that he is running for the 25th Senate District. We'll get to that and get to know Erik even more in 15 seconds after a word from Spooner Health.
Compassion is at the center of everything we do. It's rooted in who we are and why we're here. It unites us as providers, neighbors, and as a community. Learn more at spoonerhealth.com.
All righty. So obviously this is the first time that you have been on, and good morning, Carol, and good morning to everyone that is watching. Please put in your good mornings and your questions or comments. Your candidate running for office, as always, there's no pre-written questions. It's just, let's get to know you. We could spend 45 minutes talking about high school, or we could spend 45 minutes talking about policy or issues. It's whatever kind of you want to talk about. But first, let's get to know you a little bit for the people who don't know you. Where were you born and raised?
Well, I was born and raised up in a small town in northern Minnesota called Esco. It's about a half hour outside of Duluth. And that is where I grew up. That's where I went to school. Spent my first 18 years of my life there before going off to college up in Duluth at UMD.
So you went to college for?
Well, I went to college for probably too many years, honestly. But I was a biochemistry major, and then I actually went on to medical school down at the Mayo Medical School in Rochester, Minnesota.
But you said biochemistry.
So
What is that?
biochemistry is the study mostly of cells, but also of like your DNA. DNA is the easiest way to put it.
Oh my goodness. And what did you, when you went to college and you went for that, what did you want to be when you were all grown up?
Well, I was thinking that I would go when I took that major that I would be going for medical school and to become a doctor.
So you knew
Yeah.
that right away.
No, I did know it right away. I've condensed things down a lot. I didn't actually go out to college right away. I like to say that I invented the gap year. I actually did. Most people don't know this about me. They assume that I just kind of did what most people do and go off to college and then go to medical school. But I actually went and did mission work for much of a year because I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, honestly. And I went and did mission work. I was actually in Israel, and then I was in Zimbabwe and South Africa for much of a year, and then I came back and started in the spring trimester at UMD of the next year.
What made you
And
go do that mission work?
well, there's a lot of reasons for it, honestly. I mean, number one is that I'm a Christian, and that you have a love to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ to people everywhere. Um, and then I was 18, and I'd grown up in a small rural town in northern Minnesota, and I had a sense of adventure. Wanted to go see different parts of the world and do different things.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's a lot where you can't just sit in one place forever. You gotta move on too. And so I did. It was an adventure. It was definitely an adventure. And then when I actually was in school, I actually went back to Israel and did a study abroad there for a semester. And one thing that hit me is I remember seeing a kid there, and he had a very strange head injury or birth defect. And I remember thinking, you can reach to those people and help those people most easily by being a doctor. And that was one of the big driving forces actually in my life. So no, I did not know always what I was going to do. But then when I did decide, that's where I was a biochemistry major and then headed off to medical school.
Medical school. How long is medical school?
Medical school is another 4 years, and then there's residency afterwards.
Yeah,
So
I heard the
then I
residency
did.
takes a while, and that's kind of you really kind of make your bones there, right? I mean, is it? I've heard the same thing about with lawyers. It's as soon as you get out, you get a law degree, like those first year or two or whatever, like they just work the snot out of you, man. It's like you just don't have a life.
Right.
What's it like in residency?
Well, residency, especially back then, because there's rules now on like how many hours you can put in. But my first week out, I worked 105 hours in the hospital. Um, yeah, there's only 168 hours in a week, so there's not a lot of time off. I see you
Yeah,
reaching down to do that math.
yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot of time, and you learn a lot because you're seeing a lot. You also learn to become efficient because you want to cut that time down from 105 to something more reasonable.
Yep, yep. Where did you do
A
your
lot, lot of
residency?
it's a lot of work. I did it in a couple of different places. One, I started my intern year. I was up at the University of North Dakota, and then my next 2 years were down at the University of Minnesota at the Rural Family Practice Medicine residency in Mankato and Waseca,
You got it. And
so
what year
southern
was
Minnesota. Again, a
what
rural area.
what year was this about?
That would have been when I was in medical school, or I graduated from medical school in 2002, and I finished residency in 2005.
Okay, so then 2005. How did you end up in Wisconsin?
Well, then I was looking for a job. I was looking for a job that I wanted to do, and we did a lot of rural emergency medicine in my residency. That was a large part of what we did, and the hospital in Osceola was looking for a rural emergency room doctors to really start. That before that, their clinic doctors were just covering the ER, and they wanted to separate that out. So I applied for that job, and they hired me, and we moved to Osceola.
So, as an emergency room doctor.
Correct.
So, what's the difference between? I mean, all right, I can kind of figure some things out, but I feel like an emergency room doctor has to be like the jack of all trades because you never know what's going to be
That is
coming in.
correct.
You don't really have a specialty in one specific area. Do you regret doing that, or is it like, boy, I really wish I was just I don't know a brain surgeon or just focused on I don't know something else, like a specific
Radiology,
area that you
yeah.
go into.
Yeah, when in medical school, you get to rotate around to multiple different specialties. So you get to see everything. And they want you to see that. That you get training and everything, but also so you learn what you want to do with your life. And there came a time where I realized I wasn't going to be a person who could go in and look at the eyeball every single day, 30 times a day, and be like, I mean, it's fine if I look at it once a day on somebody, but I'm like, I can't do this 30 times in a row. I just can't. It was just, I wanted a variety. I wanted to see different things in people. So it was an interesting choice to say, I just don't think I can do this. I actually, when I say the eyeball, I was actually thinking of doing ophthalmology. That was one of the things I was looking at. And I did research in that, and I published a paper in ophthalmology, and then I did my rotation. And the guy who was kind of my mentor in that, he actually even commented. He says, "I feel like this rotation has actually made you less interested in ophthalmology." And I didn't tell him, but after I had gone for about 2 days of the rotation, came home and told my wife. I said, "I don't know if I'm going to can get through 4 weeks of this, let alone the rest of my life doing this." So, so he was right. He was right. He picked up on me exactly how I was feeling. That this is not something that I think I can do with my whole life. I wanted more variety. So yeah, I mean, ER, you have to do multiple things. Rural family medicine, you kind of have to be able to do everything from minor surgeries to emergency room care to OB to everything. So you got to get trained in everything for that.
I suppose since you're a doctor, when you're at a party, when you're at a campfire with other people, or maybe even just Thanksgiving, how many times do you get asked, "Oh, you're a doctor. By the way, could you look at this mole?" Or fill in the blank with whatever else?
All the time.
Yes.
All the time. All the time. It happened to me yesterday. I was at Tom's memorial service, and a guy came up to me at the end and was like, "Hey, I just got to ask you this real quick."
Yeah.
So yes, we did talk about something medical all the time.
Does it get annoying, or is it like, okay, fine?
I'm fine with that. I mean, these are people who I know and you care about, and you want to try to give them the best advice. Sometimes the best advice is, I think you need that looked in further than just a discussion here at a campfire.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to get in and be seen.
So you ended up running for. So you were in Osceola around what, 2005? Is that about right?
2005.
Okay.
Yep.
And you ran for assembly. That'd be I think it was the 28th assembly district,
was, yes.
right? So that was 2010?
That was the 2010 election. Yeah. And it was, like I said, Tom played a major role in recruiting me into that, running for that seat along with Gae. And once I was running, at that time the seat was held by a Democrat, and so it was I didn't even know it at the time. I mean, I was just so naive. I didn't realize that's a big ask for somebody to defeat a sitting incumbent on either party, even if it is a close seat. It was going to be hard to beat somebody who has that name recognition and people already know. And so they kind of wrangled me into it. There was a person down in Hudson, she was in the assembly at the time, named Kitty Rhodes, and she came and talked to me, and she said, "Oh yeah, this won't be a lot of work. This won't be hard." I realized that she was lying to me, but but yeah, I mean, so then you put in a lot of time and effort, and you visit every single small town in Polk County multiple times, trying to get people to come and to vote for you, and then in retrospect, you look back and you say, "Oh, 2010, that was actually a good Republican year, right?" I mean, everyone swept everywhere. It was through the not just the state, it was around the whole country and on the national level too. So you look back and think, well, that was a good year. But since that point in time, Polk County has stayed as a Republican district, and the 28th district, and now through redistricting, it's now the 75th, but it's pretty much the same as the 28th, the old 28th district was at that point in time, and it's been Republican ever since. That's not me that did that. That's the people of Polk County. That's the Polk County Republican Party. That's the Burnett County Republican Party. That's people that have led the charge. I mean, you look back to like guys that were the head of the Republican Party in Polk County at that time. Dick Hartung just did a tremendous job of growing the party. I remember the first time going to a Polk County Republican event, and I think there were probably 20 to 25 people there. I was just at the Polk County Republican picnic this summer, and there were 120 people there. It's just grown, and that you got to look at Dick Hartung, Sandy Fretwell, Alan Walker, all these people who were the leaders of the Polk County Republican Party. They have grown this party into being really exactly what a party's supposed to be. County parties are supposed to be, where you get the people organized and motivated to get out and vote and really elect the people in your party. And so, even yesterday, somebody said to me, you've got, this was your seat. The 28th Assembly seat was your seat. I stopped him and said, the 28th Assembly seat is never anyone's. Like, somebody is in that seat representing, but this is the people. And I said, the 28th is the people of Polk and Burnett counties, and you got to look back even to Burnett County with Lori Reamer has been there for years as the head of the Burnett County Republicans. And Maud and Mark Dahlberg have passed away now, but for years they were up in Burnett County just working to get that area to change from blue to red, and that's where I say you got to give the credit to all of them. And now that the people who are new leadership in Polk County, and I'm talking to you, Pat Cahill, and John Kraft, if you're watching this, you've got big shoes to fill. There are some big workers that have come behind you and you're standing on the shoulders of giants in that party, and you've got shoes to fill to really fulfill what the Polk County Republicans have become, and the Burnett County Republicans, for that matter, where it's just tremendous when I look at it. When I think back to where it was in 2010, of honestly the whole area. Like, this was represented by a Dem. David Olby had been in the seat for 40 years in the 7th Congressional District, and just the change that has happened, and honestly the motivation of all of the county parties to just continue to keep this area and make sure Republicans are elected. It's tremendous, and it's the parties, but it's also just the people that live here who are motivated and ready to go. So it was a tremendous honor to represent the 28th district during that time. I mean, obviously, I think we kind of remember the Scott Walker years of being governor, and that's where I was down there. But I mean, it was an incredible time to be a member of the assembly.
Yeah, and,
so
and honestly,
great
so you highlighted a lot of the people kind of behind the scenes and how all this stuff works, but also let's not forget about the candidates. You Republicans have had a good run in that area with these candidates. I mean, it was you, and then it was Adam Jarchow, and then it was Gae Magnafici, and then now it's the 75th, Duke Tucker. I mean, I'm just saying this is people don't want to run for these kinds of jobs anymore. Just a job, but they don't want to go into politics. So to get 4, I mean, it's kind of like going from, it's like the Republicans in the 28th, now the 75th. It's like the Green Bay Packers. You just go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan. It's like, what? I mean, what are the odds of that? So
what are the odds of that?
Yeah.
Well, if you're comparing me to Brett Favre, that's okay.
Yeah, you would be the Brett Favre. You would be in that analogy. You would be. You were the first.
I'm pretty sure my arm is not as strong as his is, even to this day. But no, I mean, yes, that is the thing. Is like, as I was leaving the assembly after doing 4 years there, I'd known Adam. I'd known Adam since I was running in 2010. That's when I first met him, also, and kind of recruited him. And so there was a mistake I think that people in politics start to make, is they think that no one can replace them. that they can do the job better than anyone else. And it's like, no, we're a representative society. I mean, anyone can represent the people as long as the people agree to vote for them, right? But to find someone like Adam who was actually, I think, even better than was better at it than me. That's how I felt like Adam was better than me at it. He's got a natural skill, I think, that a lot of people don't understand. But then afterwards, when Adam steps out for him to even come find Gae, who's like even better than him. So I learned, and then now when the things change and Gae finds Duke to take that whole area of over and just he's doing a tremendous job there. Just to find someone like that, I mean, not Tom or for myself and Gae and Adam could all just get behind and endorse him right away when we first met him. I mean, it's just it's great to have people surrounding you and supporting you. And here I see Mark Pettis. He's saying, "Nice to see you here on the show." And we got to remember that Mark Pettis actually started it before when it was much more of a Dem district, and he was able to win the 28th, and then would lose to the woman that I would beat. But it was, that was a Dem district, and he was also able to win too. So I mean, there's been a lot of people representing this area and fighting for the Republican conservative cause for many years.
I want to get to then. You've decided that you wanted to run for the 25th. We'll get to the second here, but I want to just back up. We have a couple questions. I want to get to them. This is from Brian. What is your impact assessment on the $1 trillion+ funding cuts to Medicaid and Medicare on rural areas set to kick in after the 2026 midterm elections?
Well, I mean, certainly that's going to be affecting Medicare and Medicaid funding in rural areas is a huge part for the hospitals. I also know that there is money that's being come out of from the national side that is going to that is earmarked for rural areas after this. And I mean, actually, I've actually even talked to some hospital executives who have the concern in these rural areas that money's going to get diverted into cities. And so that's going to be something that we're going to have to be keeping a close eye on to make sure that money that is being earmarked to go out to rural hospitals actually goes where it's supposed to be going and doesn't get diverted when it comes into the state by other state politicians into other areas. But I mean,
please continue.
Let's go ahead. I was going to say, anytime there's changes in Medicare and Medicaid, whether good or bad, it certainly does affect rural hospitals and rural healthcare. This is why I think one of the bigger things that we really need to be looking at is development in rural areas. Not in multiple different ways, but not just tourism, but in really development of industry and jobs where people aren't going to be dependent on Medicare or Medicaid, or I should just say Medicaid in this case, for their health care, but rather on private insurance through the jobs in the industry that is actually in the area.
And the second question here, okay, this is like I'm not even sure if you can answer this one because you're running for the 25th, but okay. Why does the U.S. spend 2 times per capita on healthcare as compared to any other developed country?
Well, I think that's actually probably multiple reasons for it, honestly. We could maybe spend the rest of the show trying to discuss all of those reasons. So I think there's a lot of aspects of why that is, and part of it is people want. It's something that people want. They're willing to spend money on it. One reason. I think the other reason is that there are lots of people that are giving those services that are wanting to sell those services, and so there's a lot of demand, and there's a lot of services given in it also. Yeah. It's a way more deeper answer.
It is. And unfortunately, I mean, I would love to spend more, but we only have so much time here, so I kind of want to just keep going here. So when did you decide that you were going to run for the 25th? When did you first started thinking about it? Did someone have to talk you into it, or was it like, that's it, I saw Romaine, he's not running, I'm totally in?
No, so when I actually left the assembly in after the 20 so it was 2014 election,
14.
Adam Jarchow was running. Um, I told my wife at the time we had twins at the time that I first ran, and they were 3 years old when we started running. They turned 4 during the campaign. After 4 years, they were 8. I told my wife, I'll only do 2 terms because then we do have these children that need raising, and life gets a lot more busy and complex. We'd also done so much down there at the time, and from Act 10 to um, right to work to there's just so many things, and voter ID, and we when I decided to go back in, I had heard that Romaine wasn't running, and I just started discussing it some with my wife, and I actually was having lunch with Duke, and I just mentioned it to him. Um, I just mentioned it. He got really excited about it. I got to say, we're probably more excited about it than me running than I was excited about me running. And he's actually stayed on. He's kind of continued to recruit me for the last uh, 4 or 5 months to do this spot. So in some ways, it's this one's on Duke, but then Gae jumped in also and was really excited about having me run, and Tom again, um, and they were all doing that, and the reason I was looking at wanting to run again is I would say, like, in a nutshell, freedom. I looked at where our country was, what's going on in our state. You saw it in COVID, where there were these lockdowns. There were um, just different, just our different freedoms were really under fire, and it irritated me, honestly, to more than I'd ever been irritated, I think, in politics in years. And just seeing these things happen, and then as you continue to watch things go on throughout the Biden administration, and you see the things happening here, honestly, in Wisconsin, with some of the Supreme Court decisions, and the way Evers is running the state with, through almost executive order, and um, it's just a it's just a time where I feel that we are at a spot where our freedoms are and our rights are under fire, and we need to all be involved. We need to all fight for what we're going to for what we could possibly lose, as we saw in under the COVID rules. And so I was talking about it with my family, and then Charlie Kirk was killed, and my little son, I have a 10-year-old also, and he was, yeah, Dad, you should do this, you should do this. And then Charlie Kirk died, and I said, I've got to do this. I can't sit quiet while people are dying for having a conversation, for fighting for the rights and freedoms that we have. Um, and then my little son said to me, Dad, are they going to shoot you too? And I said, and honestly, I kind of said, no, 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 of course not. But back in my mind, I thought, boy, 15 years ago, that wasn't even a question that would have been asked. It would not have even been asked. And now it's it is a legitimate concern. We don't know, but that is exactly why I feel like we need to run. Like, we're at a spot in time where speaking the truth and asking questions and having conversations leads to people saying, I'm going to shoot you. I hate what you say so much that I'm going to shoot you. I think one of the greatest strengths of conservatives is that we just want to be able to live our lives in freedom and to live our lives how we want. And we support other people doing that also. Ironically, I think it's their greatest weakness also, because we look and say, I want to just live my life. I'm not going to be involved. I'm not going to go out and protest
Wow.
every single weekend, right? We're not out there, but that's where we do have to get out there. We have to get out there, and we have to make our point. We have to be like Charlie Kirk and get out there and actually say, this is what we believe. This is why we believe it, and we have to be willing to fight for those rights. Um, so in essence, I mean, it's a pretty long answer. It's not like the 30-second here I meet somebody on the street and tell them, but that's a long answer of like we're kind of went through to say, hey, we've got to get in there, and honestly, I mean, we've all got to get in there. We've got to pull our weight. I'm reading a book of the Boys in the Boat about the 1936 rowing team, and one of the that won the Olympic gold in Berlin. They made a movie about it, but and one of the big things in there is everyone has to pull their weight. You have to all pull your weight. Like, I can't sit and do nothing and then expect others to step up and do it for me. We've got to be involved. This is an important time in our country, I do believe, and our state, and we have to be willing to fight for those things.
In your press release, so I think you announced, I think it was October 6th. I grabbed this part off of your press release. You've already been endorsed by the U.S. Secretary of Transportation, former Congressman on the 7th, that'd be Sean Duffy, endorsed by former State Senator Sheila Harsdorf, current 10th District Senator Rob Stafsholt, obviously 75th Assembly Representative Duke Tucker, because that's in your district, right? Duke Tucker, that's in the 25th. Brent, Waak, obviously you had mentioned Adam Jarchow and Gae Magnafici. That must make you feel good, but how important is it to have endorsements?
Well, I think the thing with endorsements is that these are people that I've either worked with in the case of Sheila Harsdorf, and I met Sean Duffy in the 2010 election. That was when he was first elected, and he'd seen an awful lot, at different events in the area, and got to know him, and he was called him up. And he was willing to endorse me here for this race. Um, you look at like people that like Sheila Harsdorf is big. People know who she is. She was in the Senate for over 20 years. People know who she was and what she stood for, and she worked with me, and she was unequivocally willing to give me her endorsement. You look at Rob Stafsholt. He's in the Senate right now, and he's saying, "This is the guy I want to have come work with me here." He was also at one point in time the senator that was representing where I live, but then through redistricting, he's no longer that guy. Same with Adam, Gae, Duke. People know who they are now. I mean, some people are going to look back and like, man, I remember that name, Severson, but I don't really remember what he stood for, what he did. And this is where I think it's important that you get some of the people who are here right now. I mean, Brent and Waak are the current Polk County sheriff, endorsing me too. That's where I think endorsements really matter, is that the people who other people know, and they're vouching, that says this is the guy, that we're for, and this is the guy that we want to see in this position.
So you're obviously when you're running an election or a campaign, you think about the primary and the general. You don't want to think too much about the general because you still have the primary, but you still have to keep it in the back of your mind, especially when you're campaigning. In this case, so far, you do know at least one so far. There's only one other person in the Republican side that is announced for the 25th. That would be Angie Sapik. You do know. So how do you separate yourself from your opponent, or in this case, since we know one, an Angie Sapik, and maybe it doesn't have to be specifically Angie, just how do you separate yourself? What is the difference between, if we have three or right now two conservatives, or I should say Republicans on the ticket, is it just, well, I know you and I don't know the other one, and that's it? How do you separate yourself in a primary?
I think that you need to let people know who you are. You have to get out there. You have to be going to their doors. You have to be letting them know who you are and getting out to events so that you can tell people, like, this is who I am. You've now met me. This is what I've done in the past. You can see who I was and what I represented when I was in the assembly in 2010 and 2012 and all the way through that time. You could look and say, I don't know Angie Sapik at all. I've never met her. I've actually only seen her once in my life. I don't know who she is. And so I'm not going to be like saying, oh, but she's this bad person. I have no idea. I have no idea about it. So that I really don't want to. I'm not going to be going into that realm at all. It's much more about me. And I'll be honest with you. You talk about it saying hey, this is about a primary campaign, and I would say in many ways I disagree, because I think at all times we have to be trying to defeat the Democrat. That's the goal. And so, if we're trying to work just against each other, that doesn't help. That isn't going to help the overall real goal. Again, like as I talked about, the parties that are here, in the county parties leading the way. If we get divided and divisive and try to divide each other against each other, that's just not gonna help the overall real goal of making sure that we have Republican representation down in Madison.
Yeah. There's a follow-up here from Brian Payos, who originally asked the question, or maybe it's different. Using Charlie Kirk's terrible murder to justify your position is nothing but promoting further division and fear-mongering. Unacceptable. Your response to that?
I don't know, Brian. He can have any position he wants, but you asked me why I got involved in that, and that is actually a big reason where I stopped and said, "Hey, this is a big reason." And I enjoyed Charlie Kirk, and I respected Charlie Kirk, and I think he was doing an incredible work in this country of having a conversation with people, and for his work to just be stopped means other people need to step up and do it. If you thought what he was doing was good, and I'm one of those people that I think needs to be stepping up to do it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Brent. I don't really agree with you on that one. It's not that my place is solely to agree or disagree, but that is an absolute thing. I've talked to so many people that after his death, they've decided to do something, and in various different ways. They decided that's it. That's this is motivating me to. I was talking to somebody recently, even like church attendance. Someone was telling me in their local town that their church attendance was going up just because of this. And I don't know why. It's just it had a huge impact on a lot of people. I don't really understand how that is creating division or fear mongering. But again, your opinion, perfectly entitled to it. So what do you think right now are the biggest issues in Wisconsin that we're facing? I mean, the list could be 100 long, right? But some that you're going to be kind of championing when, boy, you elect me, and this is the stuff that I'm going to fight for.
Yeah, well, one of the big things we're going to have to be looking at here is development. We have to have a rural development in the north, and one of the big things for development is honestly energy. And so there are some issues with electrical energy development in this area, and those are some of the big things that are going to have to be worked on and worked out, and multiple players working on it to do so. I honestly think another issue as far as just the way the state is run is we have to look at, specifically in this state, is just the unintended veto power that the Supreme Court has over both the governor and the legislature at this time, where they can rule almost anything is unconstitutional, it seems to me. We have to look at saying this, that those elections are a nonpartisan election in the spring, and we have to. I believe we need to look at saying we maybe want to move this over to being a fall partisan election. These people are doing so we know what they're standing for, and what they are, instead of having turnout of 10%, but a real turnout where the people who are running for the Supreme Court need to stand on and let everyone know how they're going to rule and what the decisions they're going to make.
Is that something? Hold on a second. Is that something that the legislature can do? I literally did not know that.
I think it would actually take a constitutional amendment. You'd have to change it over to twice. You'd have to send it twice through the legislature, both the House and the Senate, and have it approved, and then go to referendum before the entire state to have that done, to change the Constitution.
I mean, at this point, might as well.
We've got to try. We've got to try. We can't have these nonpartisan elections and then elect extremely partisan people. So, yeah, I mean, well, some of the rulings that have come out of it lately.
That's a good one. And our good friend David Wilson, former Select Police Chief. Yeah, what are the three policies that you will address if elected? Is this one of those policies? Are you going to look at? And I guess this isn't really a policy, but that would be something that you'd try to champion. What you're referring to the Supreme Court, but what are three policy issues that you will address?
Well, I mean, number one thing I think that we have to have all around our state is we have to have to look and say we need less taxes. I mean, less taxes is equal to more revenue to drive our economy and to drive small businesses, and especially on our businesses side, we need to have less taxes. I would also be always championing personal freedom for people, and then I would also be looking at some of these larger policy issues of where are we going to be going as far as state governance, as far as this with the Supreme Court. Those would be some big ones. I mean, we could talk about multiple other issues that are going to come up, and then that are going on in the state. But to me, I also just see the issue of one of the policy issues that is out there right now is even the electricity that is being driven, and how it's being done, and how it's being truly transported throughout our state. And that is a big issue that's out there right now that's going to have to be worked on.
It's way bigger than I think people realize.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I've looked into it, it's a very big issue.
100%. Obviously the ones that everyone wants to know: abortion, marijuana, and probably even education. Those three things, everybody, it's just a thing, right? So what is your view and what is your stance on abortion?
Abortion. I am 100% pro-life. I am life begins at conception, and there's that's the one issue that I am just absolute on, like where I can't understand the other viewpoint. That is a human being. That is a human being inside of the womb, and it is a separate human being with separate DNA, and they have human rights that everyone else in this country has. But for some reason, if you are unborn, you don't get human rights. That's not one that I'm okay with. Education wise, one thing on education is that I believe we should expand school choice. We should expand it completely. I'm for school choice. And the last one was marijuana. Marijuana is, hey, if this is going to be a longer answer, because from experience of working in the ER, of where people want to smoke marijuana in their own home and it doesn't affect anyone else, who cares? Go for it, right?
Agreed.
As marijuana the THC has become more potent and much more used. But 4 or 5 years ago, I said to my wife, I said, I am seeing so much more schizophrenia than I've ever seen before. And I would say that up until 5 years ago, the amount of schizophrenia I would see in the ER, I could count on one hand. In the last 5 years, I can't count it on my fingers and toes. And I said, I looked and then I thought, boy, there's a connection between people who are developing schizophrenia and people that are who are smoking marijuana.
What?
And sure enough, that was about 3 years ago. There was a paper published out of the Netherlands that showed that connection, especially in the young. So again, it's as long as people understand that that's the risk that they're taking, that they should probably, but we have to tell people the truth. It's the same as in times of COVID. Like, we didn't necessarily tell people the truth about medical stuff. Like, we need to tell them the truth, that if you're going to do marijuana, you are increasing your risk of developing schizophrenia, and that does have an effect on all of our society, honestly. So, but it's something that people need to know about. We should just inform people,
well,
so they can make their own choices.
Right. You've run 2 elections already, right? When 2010 and then re-election in 2012. You've probably learned stuff from that, but you've seen a lot of elections, a lot of candidates, both sides. What are the biggest mistake that candidates that you see usually make in a campaign?
I would say the biggest mistake I think people make overall is not understanding who they're representing, honestly. They either aren't actually from the area and are just moving in, or they are.
Well, that's crazy.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to. I'm not talking about. I look back at a couple of our last governor elections, but where people just can't connect real well with them, but they don't, or that they don't understand, and because of that, they don't understand the real issues that are affecting people in the area. Um, I think that's one of the important things that we need to look at is like why do we why are we what are the big issues that are affecting people here, and how do you get that out. And then the other mistake is that people just you can't do that by sitting at home or sitting on the internet. You've got to be out there working. You have to be out there kind of in the grind of election mode, where you are going and meeting as many people as you can, and letting them know what you stand for, so that they want to get out and support you and vote for you. You can't just that's one of the biggest mistakes people make, is that they don't spend enough time on the road.
Yeah, the door knocking thing and being at events, that is a staple, and it'll never go away. In fact, I say it's probably even more important now than it ever has been. The money isn't as big as it was before. It still certainly is, but yeah, it's the boots on the ground stuff. That stuff makes a huge difference. What are you going to? I'm sure you've thought about this. What are your opponents, whether it's the primary opponent or a general election opponent? What are they going to go after you for? What are they going to hit you on?
I don't know. Um, I don't know. Um, Maybe that I'm not a full-time politician. I don't think people should be full-time politicians, though.
I thought we didn't
So,
like full time
I'm
politicians.
a
I don't know.
doctor, and
I can never. I don't know. I don't know where we are on that.
I, I,
What
I don't know. I'm not sure.
what about term limits? Where are you
I
on
don't know.
term
What
limits?
would you hit me? What would you hit me? What would you hit me on, Ben? What would you hit me on?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know.
I, I,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know either.
I resonate a lot with you. I like the little facial hair there. I like the bald head. I like the black.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right. There you go. Right?
uh,
No, I, I can't tell you. We'll see
I
though.
guess we'll find out. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
right. I mean, on the Dem side, it'll just be whatever is not what they don't agree with, right?
Oh, sure.
That's pretty much be everything.
Yeah.
Um, but I can't say on the primary what anyone would hit me on. I don't have any idea.
I want to go back. I want to answer this question about abortion, but in a different way. Right now, it's 20
Mhm.
weeks, right? If there was a
That is
bill that
correct.
was for 15 weeks, would you sign that? Or is it no, because I'm 100% pro-life, I don't want any weeks, so therefore I can't vote for something that still allows it?
Well, I mean, this is where you have to have there has to be a little flexibility. I mean, you are not looking and saying, I get to make all the rules, right? So you got to get into the legislature, and there's 99 people in the assembly, and there's 33 in the Senate, and you have to have a governor on board, right? And they're all going to have their own viewpoints, and they're all going to be looking at things politically for themselves. And so you can look and think, hey, boy, if I was going to we got a 20-week bill right now, and I'm not going to do anything except absolutely nothing, then it's going to stay at 20 weeks more than likely. I'd rather get that down to 15 and then 10 and 8. And it, if you stop and say, I will only be happy with 100%, and not stop and say, well, let's get 80%, and then we'll work on the other 20% as time goes on.
Yeah.
That's a good way to get nothing done, nothing at all. I mean, that's where I say like abortion is a very important issue for me, and I'm 100% for it. But I also realize that I don't. I'm only one of many, not one of one. This is not a monarchy. We aren't kings. We've got to try to find a way to get enough people on board, including a governor, to sign off on any law that happens.
Yeah.
So yeah. So would I sign on to a bill that says that. Yeah, I would. There hasn't been a bill that does that in this state though. So, and it wasn't when I was down there. But at that point in time, when I was down there, if Andre Jacques, who's in the Senate now, he was a very big proponent of right to life, and but even he was like, we don't want to do any bills on abortion here now because there's a law. There is, and there still is a law on the books from 1849 that abortion is illegal in the state of Wisconsin. Now, this is where I say some of the rulings of the Supreme Court of the state of Wisconsin are crazy in that the Supreme Court of Wisconsin just in July of this year ruled that law. They didn't say that it was unconstitutional. They said that it actually has nothing to do with abortion. It is that it had to do with infanticide and that you can't kill somebody's baby unless you have the mother's permission. Stop to think about how crazy that ruling is. It's not actually legal to kill a baby, even if you do have the mother's permission. And so this is why I look and say that we have to do some things about a Supreme Court that is literally making that kind of a ruling about a law written in 1849. So they'd have been on the books. We didn't do anything about abortion when I was down there. And that was the big reason why. That was actually even the pro-life groups would say, let's not do anything because if we're going to overturn their big goal was to overturn Roe versus Wade. And when that's overturned, abortion would be illegal in Wisconsin. Now, the real irony is that when it was overturned, it wasn't enforced in Dane County. It wasn't enforced in Milwaukee County. There was a law. There was a law there, and they said we're just not going to enforce it. And so, abortion continued to happen in those areas, and it continued all the way up until the Trump administration now cut all funding off to Planned Parenthood, and now there is no place that's doing abortions in Wisconsin.
I just saw this morning, actually. Maybe it was last night. That changed.
Okay. I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's actually, I think I put it in our headline links on our website here. Hold on. Yeah, I just saw that this morning. I think they're giving up their tax exempt status or something. So now they can resume.
Planned Parenthood is?
Yeah. Planned Parenthood, no longer essential provider, will resume abortion. Planned Parenthood Wisconsin is giving up its role as a critical healthcare provider in order to once again provide abortions. Planned Parenthood on Monday announced that it's relinquishing its status as an essential community provider in order to resume abortions in Wisconsin. So that happened yesterday.
Well, at least on the bright side, they're still not getting federally funded. That's the good part about it. At least our tax dollars aren't going to it. And I know the current law now is 20, and so you might ask, well, how did that happen? And that was done. I think it was in 2018.
Was
at
it
the end of
15?
I think it's at the end of Waak administration.
Maybe it was 18.
I think it was
somewhere in the
18.
mid-teens. Yeah. All right. Well,
I think it was 18. And from what I understand, that was done with anticipation that the Wisconsin Supreme Court would do some sort of ruling on the 1849 law like this, but they wanted to try to limit it as much as they could.
Well, obviously, we're going to get you back on.
I'm not sure. I wasn't in the assembly at the time.
Yeah, we're going to get you back on next year after, kind of all the people we're having it now because we have a lot of candidates on right now because everyone's announcing right now, and then probably have everyone back on before the election because we're still like 270 days away from the primary in August. So we have a long way to go. Okay. So we'll have you back on, get more into where your stance and views are on things. But is there anything that you want to make sure we talked about that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
We got to shrink government. That's, I think that, the bureaucracy is one of the bigger issues. I was just speaking with one of the assembly representatives that are down there now. I was talking with him last night, and he was telling me how they're making rules, and the Supreme Court overturned that the legislature has no say over the rules that are made off of the laws coming from the executive branch and then being run by the bureaucracy. We need to do everything we can to fight the bureaucracy, or as Donald Trump likes to call it, the swamp, of people that are there that are not elected officials who are running things who are making a lot of rules and running things in many ways in our state without any supervision.
Yeah, and people that really shouldn't be. I mean, not the individuals. And this is the part that always blows my mind, is that if you are on the side, like if you like the things the Supreme Court has done, now there's been a liberal Supreme Court, and you like that they're doing it, I mean, at least own it and say, okay, I don't think this is how we're supposed to. This is not how this government is set up. That's not how this is supposed to work. But I really like their answers. Yeah, but be careful, because at some point it's going to go back the other way, and you're not going to like that. I mean, this should be so easy, Doc. So, like, how can we get behind this? Just because you like the outcome, this is bad on so many levels.
But you see, I think that is where I go back to actually even saying we have to decrease taxes. We have to decrease the size of our government, because when it becomes so big and there's so much money involved in so many of these things, it has the opportunity to just, people are saying, we'll do whatever we have to win, instead of saying, let's get people on our side, let's have a disagreement and have a discussion and then come to it. But that's is why I think one of the biggest things we need to be doing is at all time is shrinking the bureaucracy and shrinking government.
All right, you're speaking my lingo now. Okay, just saying. I'm a proponent of that. All right, Erik, thank you so very much. Doc, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Special thank you to former State Assembly Representative and current candidate for Wisconsin's 25th Senate District, Erik Severson, for taking the time to come on for a chat today. I'll see all you back here this Thursday, October 30th, 8:30 a.m., when I will once again be chatting with Senator Romaine Quinn, who always joins us on the last Thursday of the month. On a quick side note, we may be doing an additional show this Friday, the 31st. We'll have to kind of wait to see how things develop over the next 48 hours. If we do, we'll announce that on our website, as well as our guest that will be on Friday. So until then, for DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden saying thank you for watching, and as always, have a blessed day.